Welcome to the JoContractor Show, a podcast created by three regular Joes. The JoContractor Show is a place where trade professionals, business owners, and homeowners looking for solid advice and amusement can hear stories of great success and great failure in the turbulent and unpredictable world of construction. On the JoContractor Show, we dig deep into the realm of remodeling and construction. We chat with construction trade professionals, business owners, and homeowners alike. We support local independent contractors and those who put their trust in the hands of these capable and hardworking business owners and tradespeople. We discuss construction and home maintenance from multiple angles, and we do it with compassion, purpose, and humor. Listen as Lori and Sam, along with a wide variety of guests, explore topics related to construction, home ownership, small business creation, and more. A quick reminder, don't forget to send your questions to questions@JoContractorshow.com. And after you've done that, please take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe, or talk about us tomorrow morning at the local coffee shop. We appreciate feedback and critique, and it lets us know that you're out there and that you care.
All right.
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Hey, Sam, it's been a while.
It has. When was the last time we did this, actually?
Yesterday? No.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's
they don't know.
Radio land. No, it has been a while. How are things?
It's Minnesota and it's flying. Things are flying. How about same with you, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Yep. All of a sudden, quite busy. I mean, I can't get to everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm still like catching up, you know. But it's good.
It's really good. It's a fun time to be in this business.
When it's busy?
Kinda. You just don't have time to think.
I suppose you liked it because it was so hot the other day.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. Remember, I get really jealous of my crew that they get to be out working in this hot weather and I'm stuck in my office, not sweating or anything.
Yeah, and it was too hot for me.
Yeah, it was for my dog.
Yeah.
It's the humidity and the rain. Look, that's Minnesota right now. So if you're not from Minnesota, we are above average on rainfall.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's shaping up to be a nice year.
Yeah, the plants are great.
Mm-hmm.
We got a guest here I would love to jump into and introduce.
Great. Let's do it. You go for it.
All right. Joe Hayes from Hayes Window Restoration.
It says Hayes Window Restoration right there on your hat.
There it is.
Good marketing right there.
Yeah.
And his first name is Joe.
Joe is great. It's relatively easy for me to remember.
Thanks for naming the podcast after me.
Yeah.
I have learned a little bit about Joe because we are doing a project together, and then on my end and his end. I'm very excited for everybody and all the listeners to hear what Joe does because it's just I so believe in what he's doing.
If I could be so bold as to venture a guess, I would say it's in the window.
Yes.
Window restoration.
You are correct.
Yeah. Was that good?
You are correct. Yes.
Yeah. Woo. Yay me.
So tell us, or tell the listeners, and Sam, because Sam doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't know anything about what you do. So.
Of what you're doing.
Sure. So we're a residential contractor serving the Twin Cities area, and we specialize in the repair and restoration of historic wood windows.
Okay. So do you carry like a residential remodeling contractor's license?
We do.
Then?
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily use that for all the things that.
No, the way that the residential contracting works, it's like we're more than a sub-trade because we're doing such a variety of things.
Yeah.
And so it was the simplest business license for us to get.
Yeah, I mean, they don't make one specific to that.
Yeah, and most of what we're doing is it doesn't require a permit, but we have that ability to pull a permit, do the lead safe work, all that.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't need a permit, would you, for restoring?
No, I mean, most of it just falls under, it's like classified more like repair and painting type work. Not doing window replacements, right?
Yep.
Not doing big demos, big renos, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The only reason I say like that is because anytime you talk to the city, any city, and you ask them if you need a permit, they're like, "Yep, need a permit for that."
Anything.
Because for them sometimes isn't it just a dollar value too? Do some of the
I think so. It's if if the window doesn't come out, right?
Yeah, oh no, I'm not. I'm with you. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't pull permits on window repair either. But I've always thought that the city was like, no, anything over $600 or something, you have to pull a permit. Like
they want to talk you into pulling permits for everything, but
for what?
I know it's not all bad. I don't mean to sound disparaging against the cities for making permits. Like they would. Wait, Minnesota's got a surplus right now. I don't know about Minneapolis. But just doing not just. It's amazing because what Joe's doing is saving the landfill, keeping the old wavy glass, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But what's the age ranges of the houses you typically work on?
So, I mean, we think of it as like anything, if you think about the housing stock in the U.S. that was built between the Civil War and World War II, like very little changed in window construction during that time. That's a really big period of time.
Yep.
A lot of houses, a lot of windows in the older parts of our cities, all over the U.S. And so we're one window restoration company in the Twin Cities, but there are a number of small businesses like us in cities all over the U.S.
Not that many that I know of around here, though, is there?
Not many locally, no. But like you go out to the East Coast, there's a lot higher concentration. So it's like if we're going to drive to the nearest window shop, we might have to drive, down to Madison or down to Iowa or something. Whereas if you're on the East Coast, you drive up and down the coast, and you're going to hit a window shop every half hour.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
When you say a window shop, you mean someone a vendor of yours that you...
Not a vendor of ours, but a similar restoration type company. So we're also, I'm a member of and a board member of an organization, a trade group called the Window Preservation Alliance. It's a really, really cool group of people where it's like, it's other small businesses like ours. Sometimes they're, 15, 20 person teams. Sometimes they're, solo companies with, maybe a helper or two. And so, but it's a networking group, a trade group, a place for us to get together, talk shop, do some annual meetings, that kind of thing. So really great group.
So it's a national group.
With.
Wow, very
That's right.
cool.
Yeah.
So tell like the listeners like what you do, because you've got different areas, because I have just gotten to know Joe just because they're doing a new build out, and he just bought a new building for their business, and so we're helping them build out. So I don't know Joe that well. We're just getting to know each other, but you have different areas. It's not just going to a house and glazing windows, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about old windows, there's a lot that an old window might need in order to keep it viable, right? And of course, everyone thinks it's like, well, we're 30 years into being inundated by the replacement window industry. I'm like, throw your old drafty windows, get your new window. Yeah, well,
right?
Fair question. It depends on what city you go to. Look around in Duluth or some smaller towns, and there's very little original material left, even though there is old housing stock. We're in the Twin Cities. It's a high concentration of a lot of old houses. There's still a lot of historic material left. And so, we go into a house and somebody calls us up and says, hey, I've got some old windows. I think they could work better. I really like the character. Everyone's got different reasons of why they want to keep their old windows. Sometimes it's a matter of like, it seems like a more affordable option. In other cases, it's all about historic character, and people just like the integrity. They like the repairability. They like the lack of waste that comes from restoration, right? So there are a variety of reasons why people choose restoration. But we go into a house and we want to hear from people like, well, what are your main pain points? Like what motivated you to reach out to get help with the window? And then we'll assess the window to say, okay, like what's working well, what isn't. It's usually just deferred maintenance, right? Or poor maintenance, right? So in some cases,
we're talking windows that are 100 years old, though, oftentimes, right?
Yeah,
sometimes older,
and I mean, deferred maintenance, like I know as a remodeler, a former remodeler, right? Sometimes almost zero maintenance.
Right.
Yeah. But that's a testament to the quality of the window in a certain way, because almost 100 years on, it's still there. Of course, it's in need of a lot of repair, but they persisted.
Yeah, and it really varies one house to the next, or even one facade of a building to the next, right? So it's like the south side may have seen a lot more wear, whereas the north side might be in pretty darn good shape.
Right.
Or maybe the north side had some water issues and things got wet, and it's really like into the south, east, and west sides that are actually in decent shape. So house by house, window by window, it really varies a lot. So it's really every project we do really has to be kind of tailored to what that house and to what that window
it's so amazing
needs.
though that you can get double paned windows that are 10 or 15 years old and you need to replace them already. You know what I mean?
Shot.
In 100 years and you can fix it up and put it right back in.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's so hard to wrap your head around other than, I mean, I know in my house, I've got all different years in my house. It's not all the same.
Of course, yeah.
And some I bought from BMO that are probably 15 years old. I'm having to replace them. They've either, you know, there's leak in the double pane and it's foggy, or it's just not holding up like those.
I know
old
when
windows.
I was a painter, I'd have my 5-in-1 in my pocket and go to people's like relatively new big house that was built 15, 20 years. And like, well, you know, your roof is completely shot and your windows, they're like, well, can't you just paint them? And I'm like sticking the 5-in-1 through the sill because it's all rotted out. Like, no, there's nothing left to fix.
Right.
So is that just like, I mean, clearly they're making, do we make any windows that are going to last 100 years?
Well, we do.
You do.
Yeah, we do. But
Yeah,
so,
I mean, do
if we,
window manufacturers?
That's a good
Seriously
question.
though, I mean,
well, I just want to back up and just speak a little bit more to like, you know, I shared some of the reasons why clients who reach out to us, like why they're motivated to restore their windows.
Yeah.
But really, like the thing that motivates us, and the thing that we do as a company is we look at a window and say, okay, what are the different components of an original wood window, right? And you're looking at, well, the wood that is used to make the window, it's far superior to any wood
way
you can
better.
get to. So we're looking, in our region, it's mostly, you know, eastern white pine, but that's old growth white pine. So that's a 100-year-old tree. That's a tree that was maybe 300 years old when it was cut down,
Yeah.
right? So this is like, you know, really tight growth rings, really rich in resin, really rot resistant because of those qualities,
Yeah.
really insect resistant, dimensionally stable. And so this is really special wood.
it is the best of the best.
It's the best
of
wood.
Yeah,
It's the best
no
wood.
kidding.
It's gone.
I can just
Yeah.
visualize it as
You
you're
know,
talking.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, once we throw this wood out, it's gone. Like we're not getting any more.
No.
We're not getting any more of this old growth wood, right?
No.
And so, you know, just to be able to keep this wood in service is a really important thing to do. But then if you say, okay, well, here's this wood sash, but then, well, this wood sash, it's made out of 4 parts. It's got, you know, 2 stiles and 2 rails, and those are all pieces that we can, relatively easy through our woodworking, we can replicate those.
If you need to
We can
replace
do rot
one or the
repair.
other.
We can stabilize joinery, right? We look at the deferred maintenance that you see if like you know, the glazing putty starts to go, because it's really hard to find painters who do glazing work anymore. And so like, yeah, we can. The windows
Don't you
are
mean
made
caulking?
to be.
With a big old fat finger, a smear, just
We don't make that joke.
that makes you
So it's a
cry.
very,
doesn't it?
very serious mistake. We absolutely do not. It's yeah. So you look at the glazing putty. It's like, yeah, that's a traditional paint preparation step that just gets left out.
Totally.
And it's really hard. Like, you might be able to find a painting crew who still has some old timer on the crew who's like, yeah, they got their glazing knife and they can go re-putty a window to properly prep it
Yep.
before painting. But that's really like a lost art. It's like it's like dying off in the painting trade. It's all masking and spraying these days, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, we get in and do that. A lot of what we're addressing is just mechanics. So getting the window to open and close. And so
Right.
we might go into a house that like the windows are more or less aging gracefully, except that, you know, maybe one painter came in and did an atrocious paint job and just painted everything shut, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's, maybe it's 5 mediocre paint jobs. None of them were done that
But it all
poorly,
adds up.
but they pile up. And so you think
Yeah.
about, you know, the dimension that you need when a sash opens and closes in that wood jamb, and you put paint in there, you know, year after year, that dimension shrinks, and so that wood sash can't operate anymore. Another thing that we're doing is we're using latex paint instead of oil paint, right? And latex paint is it's a stickier paint. Even when it's fully dry, it has that phenomenon called blocking, where it will stick to other latex surfaces,
Sure.
even once it's fully cured.
Yeah.
So all these things are kind of like piling up to make old windows seem like they need to be discarded, need to be replaced. In reality, they're fairly simple fixes, fairly simple repair tasks that we can do. If it's on the repair end of things, tuning up, doing glass repair, tuning up existing weather stripping. The old weather stripping works really well when it integrates, when it interlocks. Right?
Okay.
So the tricky thing is, it's like, if you've got a rail that's failing, you've got a jamb that's out of square, you've got paint chips or glazing chips that have fallen out and piled up in your J-hook and the zinc fin at the meeting rail. That's going to keep the window from shutting tightly, so it's going to feel drafty. Well, you open that up, take the sash out, get a pick tool on there and clean out those things. Everything is going to integrate better once you put it back together. It's going to be a much tighter window from a draft perspective once it's
isn't
together.
that sort of what, and maybe it's the industry, and I'm not trying to bag on the window industry or anything, but isn't that sort of the sell, right? Is that no matter what, you can never make these old double hungs energy efficient in any way, so just replace them with these new ones. Like, isn't that...
That's the pitch that's out there, right? But in reality, like, people call them single pane windows. Well, originally these were actually, there's a primary window and a full-size storm window, a two-light storm window that would go with your double hung window. And so when those were new and that storm window fit tight and it wasn't overpainted and the opening hadn't settled, that was a good tight window. And we still come across houses, that still have the original storms. And as long as they've been maintained, people report that no, these aren't drafty windows. I don't want new storms. They're when everything's tuned up well, they're going to perform better than an aluminum storm window in a lot of cases, right? And so we think about these as the original double pane window. It's just not an insulated glass system, right?
Right, but you've got a dead airspace there that kind of keeps everything. I mean, they do a pretty decent job, right?
They really do. If there's not blowout, if there's not rot, if you don't have things, really, out of square, when things are good and draft tight, they'll perform quite well.
Yeah.
It's in the end. I mentioned this before that. Okay, you get sold on in some double insulated windows and all new, and you've paid tens of thousands of dollars for it, and you're getting an R2 instead of an R1. And you can put, if their storm window is on there, not just the screen, which is what they sell, the window and a screen, but if you have a storm window on there, there's your R2 again.
Right.
So now they've bumped it to R3s, so you can get an R3.
Is that really all the better we get?
Triple pane, that's all. That's it.
That's all we get out of a window, right? But we didn't lose most of our heat out the roof anyway. I mean, obviously, if it's drafty, that's a bad thing. If you've got actual air infiltration, but windows have never been. I knew they were never good, but really, that's it. R2.
Yeah, the best. If you want a really green, sustainable building, you make it a square, no windows and no doors.
That's like the office I'm in now. I got no outside light. That's why we're thinking about moving.
Yeah. But, even the one-story houses are very sustainable because they've got a good lid on them for the insulation, right?
I love
ramblers. And so you can get a lot. The story-and-a-half houses, unfortunately, aren't the best for energy. But again, the windows, you can look at, Joe was looking at my new rental and he's showing me, walking through, so he's going to do some work there. Because I was so excited. They're I don't have to buy all new windows, because some of them are really shitty.
You're right.
And there's broken glass. You can see light through, or wind is coming through some of them. The glass isn't even, there's no putty on most of them.
Yeah.
And but I like them.
But Joe's telling you they're fixable?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it.
I know.
And are you... I love that there's construction noises going on in the background too. I don't know if that'll come through on the mics or not.
I know.
But it's fitting for a
Well, at least the dogs
show.
aren't barking.
Yeah, I like it though. Is it less expensive generally to get the windows tuned up and fixed and get them working?
It'd be generally yes. If you're comparing, if we're going to look at a full restoration project, which is a really time-consuming project, but you have a pristine result at the end, and you're going to compare our restoration project to the bottom of the barrel vinyl window. We're not trying to compete with that, right?
But if you look at some I'd compare anything to the bottom of the barrel.
but it's there's such a huge spectrum of what a window replacement project can cost.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's all about going out, assessing the window, finding out what the client's priorities are, and trying to offer the best value based on the situation they're in and what their priorities are. So, we go out and it's okay, maybe we can get by and just do some tune-up work, some sash cord repair, some spot glazing. That's similar to what we're going to be doing for Lori, and it's a really good value compared to a full replacement project. Whereas if you're comparing, a name brand whole house window replacement project with what we offer for full restoration, we're competitive with that. One house to the next, we might be a little bit more, we might be less. Our take is that it's a much better value to go with restoration because what we're doing is we're restoring something that is, it's a central component of the character of an old house, right?
Yeah.
So that's like, how do you even put a value on that, right? And it's 100 years old. It's key to the house. It's maintainable and repairable in perpetuity. So when we do restoration, we think about it as being like, this is like the 100-year overhaul, because it's a 100-year window, 100-year-old window. We're going to give it a big overhaul and get this thing set for another 100 years.
Right.
Any replacement product that you put in that opening, 20, 30 years, you're back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
So
even our top of the line, I'm a Marvin fan.
I am too.
I can't help it. And even the top of the line Marvins, which I do think, like, you know, if you're talking about putting new windows in a house, or if you really have to go the route of replacement, like, I think they make a nice product. But yeah, I don't really expect them to live past 50 years or something. Like, it doesn't. I just don't know if anyone's making windows that really.
I'm just thinking about, you always go to your own house when you think about it. And I'm like, I have a 20s house with the 50s edition and then a 20s edition, and there's not one old window. They kept replacing them, and the worst thing they could have done is replaced them, because now I've replaced them, and now I'm replacing them again.
Right.
Well, those of us in the restoration trade, we joke around that, you call them replacement windows because you have to replace them so often. Oh. Right?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
That is so true.
Well, I love the idea that, nothing's sort of more satisfying than going into an old home with old double hungs, and they work beautifully, and everything's like the weights are working. They slide up nice. They come back together tightly. Like, I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, but I know as a contractor, I don't ever remember telling someone, well, I know I said a couple of things. I would say to people, look, these are too far gone. Like, you need new windows, which maybe I was wrong. Like, maybe. Oh,
I know. I was wrong back in the day. Of course I was. I look back and I cringe,
Yeah. Or I would say, look, this window's 84 years old. It's been in your house the entire time, and it is still doing pretty good. So if you do a little labor of love here and take some parts and clean some stuff up, it's probably going to last a lot longer. Like, it's not rotting out of here tomorrow. So you don't need to replace it. Those were kind of my two standard responses. Because I didn't realize people were restoring them. Mm-hmm. I can admit that. And I didn't know how to, nor necessarily want to do it myself, because people didn't want to pay us for it.
Yeah. Right.
Because
if it's not the only thing you do, how efficient can you be at it?
Oh my God! I would look at them.
Like, you guys, that's what you do.
Yeah,
so
I would look at them and be
efficient, I guess.
I'll spend days doing this, and you don't want to pay for days of my time.
No.
But yeah, you guys have it's what you do, and I'm sure you understand them so well that you can look at them and assess them in ways that you and I couldn't, Lori.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. And there's windows that are way past the point too, that you just can't do anything when they're so rotted with sills.
Look at that face.
There is another, saying in the trade, we haven't met a window we haven't been able to restore.
Wow.
Right? So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right thing, for that opening.
Yeah.
Like basement windows, for example. It's like we see a lot of basement windows where somebody might email us a photo of their basement windows, like, hey, these are in rough shape. Can you help us out? Like, well, we can't get a crew out for that, but if you can bring them in, we can, we call it drop and work. Drop it off at the shop. We'll restore it for you. And inevitably, like every other request like that, like somebody emails back in an hour, like, hey, I tried to take it out, but it just fell apart.
What about sills?
And we can actually still fix those, but it gets to a point where you might be better off in a place that's that wet.
Glass block.
And it's not vital to the character of the house in most cases.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like it could make more sense to get a different style window in there. But.
Well, do you guys repair trim and sills too?
We get into some of that.
Okay.
It's its own specialty niche, right? So there are some local carpenters who we refer some of that work to.
Okay.
And then if we're getting onto a job that's like a bigger project and there's just some smaller pieces of that, we'll tackle it in-house. Yeah.
Sure. So you primarily stick just to the windows.
Yeah. So we stick to double hung windows, casement windows, transoms, or fixed casements. We'll do it's the repair work, weather stripping, restoration, spot glazing, and then a new service that we started offering about a year ago is we make wood storm windows.
Okay.
So we make both the traditional, 2-light storm window, with a separate screen, and then we also started making a combination wood storm window. So this is like a storm window that's got a wood frame that doesn't have to come off the house, but then from the interior, once you've opened your primary window, it has interchangeable glass and screen panels. So you still have that seasonal swap out, but you're able to do it with much smaller, more easy to manage panels, and you can do it from the interior.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that your own design?
It is, yeah. Huh. We designed it, designed all the joinery and everything in-house, although it was an idea that actually came from our clients, where people would reach out and say, hey, I want this. Did you guys do this? Right. You do this, right? We had to say that's a great idea. Not yet, but give us a call in 6 months. So.
And so that leads us to, how did you get into it? How long have you done it? And
the storm window specifically, just this thing? Windows in general. So when I was in my mid-20s, I bought my first house in South Minneapolis, in Longfellow, and it was a total fixer-upper.
Yep.
It was 2009. It was when the market was just flooded with a ton of houses.
Oh yeah, cheap bed.
Yeah.
So bought a house, moved in February, and realized there are no storm windows on this house. It's on a bus line. This is very loud. Every time the bus goes by, these windows rattle. Because there was no glazing putty. It was just glass and the wood and the metal glazing point.
Yeah.
And that was all that was holding the glass in.
Yeah, of course.
And so these were originally black painted sashes, but almost all the paint was gone. It was just gray weathered wood.
Yeah.
And so,
I've seen those.
I grew up doing a ton of DIY stuff with my dad, just doing fun house projects and stuff. And so, being in my mid-20s, I was a teacher at the time, just starting a career as a Montessori educator. And every summer, just would roll up the sleeves and dive into house projects. And so one of my first projects was I'm gonna put some storm windows on and glaze these windows, figure out how to get these less drafty and operating better. And so I got to see I just glazed these 2 years ago. Why is this glaze failing? It's it's because the wood was so dry. I didn't condition the wood, and so that dry wood, it pulled the oil out of the putty, and it caused that little crack right along that seam where the putty meets the wood. So I was able to kind of get deeper and figure out, there's a better way to do this. Now I'm going to condition the wood. I'll use oil-based products, and was able to now it's 5 years in, and this new glazing job, this is holding up, right? And so I was able to get better at it over time as I got into a lot of other old house stuff too. So, years passed, got married, had a kid, had another kid on the way. It was almost a decade into teaching, and it was really clear to me, I don't have another 30 years of teaching, in me. It was a really, really, really amazing profession to be in for a while, but was really feeling a pull to work with my hands, and really was getting harder and harder at the end of the summer to put the tools away and go back to the classroom. So the growing family just needed more variety in kind of how I was spending my time. So I left teaching and got set up as an independent contractor, just taking on some sub jobs, doing some window repair, and it just kind of took off from there. So I wasn't intending to start a whole business like what we have today.
Yeah.
It just kind of grew from the demand, from really enjoying the work, and from getting booked out, realizing I needed help, bringing on a team, and a lot of my skills from teaching and organizing small groups and things like that. It just turns out that it transferred pretty well to running a small contracting business.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And how many employees do you have now?
We're up to 21.
Wow, that's good.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
21?
Yeah,
well, technically we're at 20. We have somebody who's on sabbatical abroad. He'll be back in July. And he'll be back at 21.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's a
their
company.
shop is pretty nice, and I mean the old shop is what I got to see. The new shop's going to be even better because it's bigger's better, especially with your growth. I mean, it seems like you guys are doing well and growing, and they've got these their departments, the woodworking area, the containment, stripping and painting, and I don't know, whatever else glazing and windows, and here's something crazy. I'm like, well, Joe, we were looking in the rental in the bathroom, and I'm remodeling the bathroom, and I said, well, I'll have to get a window in here because it's got to be tempered. And Joe's like, I can do that.
Yeah.
I go, okay, they even do tempered.
Yeah,
just like a glass repair, right? As if it was a cracked pane, we'll just order some tempered glass.
Yeah, and I wasn't smart enough to even think about that, I guess.
I know.
But amazing. So, that's right here, right in our neighborhood, and I can't believe we didn't know or haven't used you. So
how long have you been in business?
It'll be, we're coming up, we're just, next week will be 7 years in business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've
I don't
grown
have
pretty
too many
quickly.
clients to apologize to then, because I haven't done that much work in the last 7 years. More of it was before that.
Yeah.
So otherwise I would.
Clients beg though for new windows. I mean, I'll say
do.
no, and they're like, "Oh no, we want new windows," and I go, "No, you don't really need them."
Yeah, the
Well, I mean, I
marketing is
think we've
really,
been-
really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been sold
So now
that
I can
idea.
and now I can really say, "No, you don't need them," and here's who we're going to work with. We'll have the Hayes group over and.
Well, and knowing
Yeah,
that
take a look.
that you're not gaining, I always knew you weren't gaining that much on the
R value.
R value.
Right.
But like you said when you moved into your place, when you're looking at the window clanking in there because it's hitting those glazing points and there's nothing else there, that looks to most people that looks like unfixable.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
this is done.
another part of that story was like, it was like, what do you do in that situation? You replace your windows, right? So I went through the process of like, it's like, you get on Google and you have the the replacement window company come in and do their sales pitch and show you their demo and it's like I looked at that and it was like this beautiful stained woodwork all through the main level, and I looked at what they had and it's like, well, they've got this white one and they've got this thing that like is this stained? What is this?
Yeah.
And it was just like I just was trying to envision what's this going to look like at the end of this project, and it just didn't feel right.
Right.
It's like this product is, no matter what it's made out of, it just doesn't feel right. And of course there are wood replacement windows.
I mean,
but still that wood is so prone to rot that they just they don't hold up as long as the old stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I went through that process, and it was really just kind of like the DIYer in me that really kickstarted it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that same note, here's a comparison to that is when people have vinyl siding on or something been covering the old siding and they're like, well, I don't love the vinyl or the metal, but I'm sure the underneath is really rotted, so I'm sure that's why they did it.
It drives me
and
crazy.
they've never done it. It's never rotted. The siding underneath is just covered up because they didn't want to paint it, but it's still in really good shape.
I know you pull the vinyl off there, and you're like, you wrapped this whole house in vinyl, and there's this much good old lap siding on there that isn't this good. I mean, you could repair a few spots here.
Yeah, there's always they
be done.
cut the drip edge off and things like that, but you can fix that. So it's like that's a similar thing where this old wood it just stands up, and people think,
does.
oh, everything's rotted, get rid of it. Again, that's what we've been sold on, and that's why our podcast is so amazing, because we tell the truth and give people so much great information.
Sure.
Well, it's years
Marvin's
of experience.
like, we're not sponsoring you now.
Well, we said we like Marvin.
We do.
like Marvin.
New houses need good windows. But
True.
old window
absolutely.
construction, when I was doing construction, I thought about this pretty hard at one point, or many points really. What is the difference? Like, why are these things lasting 100 years and still sitting there and not going anywhere fast? And the homeowner's like, well, I don't know, I think we could get rid of them. When some of these new windows are just falling apart 10, 15 years in. Like it,
I mean, there are a lot of reasons behind it.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the material that's used.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like kind of like the why of how it was designed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you look at an old window, it's old growth wood, it's cast iron pulleys, it's sash cord, so it's like rope. We're in our region. You go to the East Coast and it's a lot more sash chain. Yeah. But then once you get the sash out, you get the weather stripping out of the way, you look at the jambs, and there's a pre-cut pocket door. So they were made to be repaired.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? They were made to be repaired. They were made to be maintained. Whereas you take your new double hung window unit, you put it in your house.
It's all glued
today,
together with
or a 20-year-old one. What doesn't matter? You look at just generally modern building, and none of it was made to be repaired. Right? There may be some repairs that you could do.
Oh, very few
But
generally.
it's really hard to find somebody to do it, even if it is repairable. And so it's out with the old and with the new. Some people get into the kind of they go down the the planned obsolescence rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I get really sad if I drive down my neighborhood and I, see a certain, certain brand box truck out in front of it, and I see a pile of old windows. That's a bummer to me, because those are windows that we can't restore, and then that company that's out selling this stuff, that's hucking stuff in the landfill, putting in new manufacturing that we know isn't going to last. Like, they're setting themselves up for new work in 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And we can't touch it. So to me, it really is.
Yeah, I can tell you're passionate
is a problem.
about this.
Yeah, I drive around and I just can't look at things sometimes. I'm like, no, you're tearing that down, or there's a pile of OSB instead of plywood, which is such an inferior product. Or there's, a house is coming down instead of redoing it. Yeah. There's so many ways around it. I just love some of our clients, and we did this house over, I love saying this, CEI house for this company, nonprofit called CEE. CEI. So it's continuous exterior insulation, which I think I've mentioned before, and I should mention it on the show because there's a $15,000 grant for, we're doing a test research project for over 2 years, and we're doing 10 houses.
Really?
And the clients can get $15,000. And I wouldn't say tear off your siding just to get this new siding on it.
No.
But if you are taking off your siding and you want, and then we're doing continuous exterior insulation on the outside and then re-siding it. So if somebody's already doing it, like I visited somebody today for a potential, we're doing it in collaboration with CEE, who is Center for Energy and the Environment.
Okay.
And they asked us if we would partner up with them to do this. And
cool.
Spread the word if anybody needs any. If you are getting rid of your siding for a good reason, then this is a good time for us to come in, and you can get up to $15,000. And if it's a one-story house of $15,000, I'll probably cover it for the exterior insulation, and then you pay for your siding. But and then CEE.
But that's really good.
Is coming in and doing research, and they're going to take all of your. We want somebody that's lived in the house for a while, so that we have their utility bills. Yep. We can get them anyways, probably, but we're not doing the research. We're just doing the work. So CEE is going to follow up then and do all the research on it.
I love that you're into that stuff.
I love it.
All the energy efficiency stuff.
But so if anybody out there needs, this is a great opportunity. $15,000 doesn't come walking in your door very easily these days. So
I don't think it's ever come walking.
But there's another thing. So I see siding come off a house. I'm driving around and I see siding, and I'm like, then I don't see any insulation going on it, but new siding going up.
Right.
And even people I know are like, I'm like, why didn't you just run your project by me? I can tell you. Because
you're gonna suggest they put another 20 grand into it. And they're like, I don't want to put another 20 grand into it.
I might. That's
people
true.
People are cheap.
But if these people can afford it, and then if they're going to stay in their house and they've cut their energy bill down by 25%, and they're going to stay there for another 10 to 20 years, man, you do the math.
Itself.
Yeah.
I know. Well, and it's just good.
Okay, I'll get off my high horse.
All right, well, we do take our little break in the middle. Let's do that.
Okay.
And then
all right, and we'll be
come back and ask some more questions.
Yeah, more questions for Joe.
Ooh, it's doing it.
Yes, we're back.
The new system.
Nice job.
I still like it. It still takes a little bit
to get used to.
To not have the microphone in the face
and the
headphones on.
I know it seems like it's fake. Like we're just
like it's not actually happening.
No.
Yeah.
Like we're just hanging out.
No, it's for real.
It's for real. Until I hear it on the podcast radio.
So Joe, I'm kind of in this because I like people. And I like meeting people, and I mean, actually, I love the construction side of stuff too, and I still love talking about construction and all the different facets. But ultimately, I like meeting people and getting to know new people. But I have more questions about the windows.
Yeah, let's go.
So we'll get to you in a little bit. But I mean, I don't often think of it through the lens of if I'm a homeowner or if I'm a different contractor or like our audience. I don't put myself into our audience's seat very often, so to speak. But in this case, like I am super interested about this because there's a lot of windows out there. It just amazes me that you can take you can take windows that have been around for as long as some of the windows we're talking about and then turn them into something that still works. And Lori was just telling me that you gave her a bid on something that I think if I were to look at that with you prior to all of this, we'd have been like, oh, I need new windows.
Yeah.
Right? There's no other option.
That's
but
what
to
I thought. I was going to measure them all up.
Yeah. Like that's just what you do. But just for the sake of a homeowner or a general contractor like the two of us who have a lot of general knowledge, but not that specific knowledge about the windows. Lori was telling me, and I'm not trying to price anything here for you out in the world because that's very tough, but she was telling me that the restoration of this property that she's got, where she would have needed to buy replacements for all of them, came in under $5,000 from your company. That to me, that's a couple of windows in a certain way.
It
know what I
That's
mean?
true, and we should be clear too. It's like, it's a repair project. I wouldn't call that like we have repair
not
and
the
we have
fancy
restoration.
end.
And they're very different. So like
It is a rental.
everything that we'll do for everything that we'll do for Lori, it's going to be site work. So it's going to be like essentially like a home services crew coming and working on site to do repair work, right? So it's not a ton of hours. There's going to be an interior phase and an exterior phase, so we're going to cover a couple different things. We will bring a couple things back to the shop just because of the tempered glass, and we usually do same-day glass repair.
Sure.
Tempered glass, we'll bring it back, get it measured. It'll be a couple weeks before that glass comes in. That's
normal.
Yeah,
And it's a one-story house,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
that helps.
But let's say that those windows were, let's say maybe the prior owner had left the storm windows open for a couple years and they got a ton of weather. Or maybe somebody had just done some atrocious paint jobs on the interior or had run humidifiers in the bedrooms, and so like the interior paint was just really bad. Like, those windows are in relatively good shape from an aesthetic perspective and just like the basics of their operation, right? So like if those windows had been in a lot worse shape and we were doing a full restoration proposal, we'd be looking more at like the $1,500 to $2,000 per window range. So we're getting closer to a kind of a ballpark, or closer to the
good
cost of
replacement.
like what would be considered a good replacement.
Yeah,
but a replacement plus an install, you're at that price, if not more, because
where are things at in the?
it's about $1,000 a window, and maybe now the labor's up to
$1,000 for the window itself.
yes,
generally
every window.
So that hasn't changed much because that's kind of what I was saying a few years back.
It's more for better windows. This is like mid-range.
Okay, so $1,500 maybe for like a really good quality one, $1,000 just for the glass or the window itself.
For the window itself, and then not the install. And if you do a replacement, meaning an insert, or a full replacement, which is more because you're pulling off the trim.
Oh yeah, that's
So inserts, I don't like inserts for a number of reasons. One more is that it cuts down on glass, your light coming in your window, and it doesn't take into account if you're really going to go through all that work. Pay for that window that's inferior, and you also, it's not going to be any tighter than what you just had in there.
I mean, I would tell people
Not much.
I remember telling a lot of people, like, just hold out on these windows. Just wait until you're ready to do your siding and do the entire package all at once. Because if you're really going to put in new windows, then you should be addressing all of the rest of it. Like if you're talking, we're remodeling a bathroom and we just need to replace one window and insert, fine, whatever, if it had to be there. Now I would go, I really would encourage people to look into the restoration side of things. So we were looking for price.
And so
$2,500, $3,000 for most, for a window.
to put it, for sure, for that and an install.
That's what we hear from some of our clients who let us know, like, we had a replacement quote. We're looking at what you guys can do for us too.
Yeah.
And so, we're not out, again, like we're out, our price is based on the material that we use, the labor that's involved, and just kind of the unit price that we know it's going to take, right?
Yeah, which
and
is
so
the way
for us,
things
it's
should be
we're
priced.
looking at, so for us, when we look at a window restoration project, right, or like a spot glazing project, the biggest driver of the labor that's involved is the divided light configuration. So a 1/1 double hung window, the simplest kind.
Totally.
It's way, way faster than a 6/6.
Yeah.
Right? You get those 8/12s. Like,
what about the ones with all the angles?
Those are so much fun. those are a ton of fun. They're just beautiful. They're fun to work on.
Yeah, you love working with them. Yeah.
So we really like that. We really love the unique stuff. But so for us, it's like you might have a 1/1 that might be, like I said, a wide ballpark because there's a lot to figure out, but like, it's probably not going to be over 2,000, probably not going to be less than 1,500. Whereas you're into a 6/6, and it's really hard to do those for less than 2,000. Really wouldn't want it to get up above 25, 2,600.
But I mean, fair is fair, right? Like this is, and I had to tell homeowners this all the time. Like, it's just a matter of like you're paying for someone to sit there and spend a lot of time messing with your window. This is before I knew of, like your place.
Yeah, and for us, we use the word stewardship in our shop a lot.
Yeah.
So like we are the folks who reach out to us. Like they see themselves as stewards of their old home, and like a lot of them are thankful that the prior owners didn't replace them, so that they have these old windows that they get to find a restoration solution for. Yeah. And so for us, it's like, there's that like, okay, today, how much is it going to cost? But then there's that question of like, well, what are you giving up for that cost? And what's it going to cost in 30 years, in 60 years, in 90 years, right? And that's where
don't care.
That replacement cycle of the replacement products, that's where that really kicks in. And then when you say, well, what's the based on the decision I make now, and then the next 100 years, like the ripple effect from this, like what's going to be the better long-term value? And that's where for us, it seems like a no-brainer to go with restoration.
And I'm going to say this about homeowners, and I love our homeowners, and I'm not trying to, you, our audience, if you're a homeowner and you're listening, this is not unlove here. This is still love. Most people make decisions based on the cost alone almost. Like, not everybody, but so many of them. And so I think I would now go into someone's house armed with the knowledge that these windows don't need to be replaced, because they're looking at it saying, oh my gosh, I think I have to replace these, right? And I know it's going to be wildly expensive. And just arming us with the understanding, the ability to say, you know what, you don't have to spend that money on there. Because if you tell them, okay, we're going to replace your windows, and here's why you should buy the $5,000 window, right? Because it's going to last 100 years. This is what we think, right? Like, we're going to get the top of the line window, and it's going to last 100 years, and that's a really good decision for the planet. They're like, no, that's too expensive. So then they're making this decision based on price, thinking these windows are trash and they will not survive. So I have to get a new window in there. And then they're making this terrible decision to get the cheapest of the cheap crap, because that ultimately it comes down to pocketbook. Mm-hmm. But if we can go in armed with the ability to say, look, how about this? You're not going to lose anything as far as quality, really. Like, there isn't a whole lot of difference. And you're going to get these windows restored, and they're going to work really well. And on top of that, the benefit is that you can get another 100 years out of them. Yeah. Like, I think that's a really easy to sell.
I don't think people really understand that their lifespan on most materials today is 20 years. And that's the same
lifetime.
For the gas. Lifetime.
Lifetime warranty.
We live a little longer these days.
Who's lifetime, right?
Maintenance free for
the lifetime of the product, which is 5 years.
Yes, right.
But there's a 20-year lifespan, and on the gas lines and the water lines that come into your house, there was supposed to be a 20-year lifespan, and now it's
60, 80, 100 years later.
That's why those gas explosions were happening.
Yay.
I don't know if you remember, but
that's
why the gas line, they replaced, that's why, Michaels, they came through and they're doing gas lines
our whole neighborhood
everywhere, because there's explosions of the old gas lines. But again, they lasted way longer than expected. However, it's everybody, and I hate this, garages, they're built for 20 years. Use some OSB, throw it on a slab, don't throw any block under it.
Right.
The walls.
Right.
It's 20 years. Your garage is going to last 20 years, and so...
It's all rotting out.
Yeah, and then now you're wondering why you have to get a new garage.
It probably costs $150,000 to build it.
Yeah, and I can't even...
It
It was $20,000 probably back in the day, and that's what they, people are like, oh, I'll just throw one up for 20. Now here they have to throw another one up, and now they cost 60.
Yep.
Starting.
Yeah.
I just, it's kind of eye-opening to me, to be honest. I just didn't know that this was an option. So I'm big into marketing these days, and here you are on a podcast. So hopefully, like, if you're listening, think about this when it comes to windows.
Yeah.
Like, that's one way you can get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
how do you get the message out to people just so they know? Because
well, I mean, part of it is like there are a lot of the folks doing this. Like I mentioned, the Window Preservation Alliance, the WPA, the trade group that I'm a part of. You know, that's full of folks who are like it's a lot of like solo operators.
Yeah.
Who like are really proud to say that they're booked out a year, booked out 2 years.
Wow.
Well, when you're solo, it really doesn't take that much to book yourself out that long when these are such time-consuming projects, right?
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
you know, it's like people aren't necessarily out there marketing a ton in this trade. A lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is like neighbor referrals, that kind of thing. And for us, like, you know, a lot of the problems that we've been discussing, they're problems that have to do with somebody selling stuff to homeowners, right? So like, you know, like the siding, the cladding, you know, certain windows that are out there. It's like people being sold a product. Just because somebody's out there selling to you doesn't mean it's the right thing to choose, right? And so,
I mean, this is the growth market, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
and so-
if we're not tearing something down and replacing it, someone's out of work. So they're always trying to sell you something. Like,
yeah. So just from the individual consumer standpoint, right? Not macroeconomics.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's the right thing for me to do if I identify as a steward of my old house, right? And so, you know, for me, I've been really hesitant to market because we've never had a problem booking work. Right?
Yeah.
We work for clients who seek us out and are you know, are kind to work with. They're respectful of the project that we're doing for them, and they're grateful that they found somebody to do this kind of specialty thing, right? So they're really rewarding projects from that
I think
perspective.
Joe mentioned during the break is that, you know, he doesn't want to go set out and market to people and sell like the other people are doing on windows and siding and, you know.
no, that makes sense to me. It seems more like the local news agencies or someone should put out a public service announcement or something that, you know, like we don't have to, hey, by the way, if you own an older home or an old home with old windows, you don't necessarily have to get them replaced because it can't come from one industry or the other. It's going to sound like you're pitching something.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. Yeah. Right. And so we're definitely not out there necessarily doing aggressive marketing.
No,
but we
how
are,
could you?
And we're also at a size now where it does make sense for us to get a little bit more strategic in how we market.
Right.
In large part because once these windows are gone, they're gone forever, right?
Yeah,
and so for folks who do, for our potential clients who are out there who don't know that this is a possibility, we're actually doing a disservice to the future historic integrity of our city, right? Mm-hmm. By not kind of putting ourselves out there more.
Good, really good point.
Yeah. I tell you what, I have on top of this show, I help people make video podcasts and video stuff. Let's put something out. We'll record you talking about it, and we'll put it out so that when someone looks on YouTube and they're like, "What do I do with my old windows?" Your face pops up.
Let's do it.
And you don't even have to. We can blur out your company name. You can say you do not have to replace them with new ones. There is a different path.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
And I know this podcast, there are folks all over the country listening to this, right? It's not just a local podcast.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you go to the Window Preservation Alliance website, there's a directory, so you can look up the directory by state and by city, so you can find folks who do the work we do in your area.
Oh, great to know.
So
It just needs
resource.
to be accessible. That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Windows.
Okay.
So where'd you grow up, Joe?
I grew up in Eden Prairie.
Okay.
Yep.
Right down the road.
Just down the road. Yep. Grew up in Eden Prairie. I moved to South Minneapolis in my mid-20s and
Okay.
You said that you worked with your dad and stuff. What like?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like I grew up in a house where it's like we had like he had his dad's, my grandpa's Sears riding lawnmower that would convert to a riding snowblower in the winter. It was like, so I grew up seeing my dad with the paper catalog, finding the old like mail order parts to keep this like 1966 Sears tractor going. It was like that kind of like repair ethic was what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like that. It's like, oh yeah, we've got this basement room. Let's turn this into a basement bathroom. Like kind of just doing some like, house finishing stuff here and there. Like I grew up and just enjoyed. It's like, oh, the wall got demoed. This is what's behind the drywall. Like I just, as a kid, just grew up around it and just had fun seeing it. Yeah. So grew up, went to school, got an undergraduate degree, I was a wilderness canoe guide up in the Boundary Waters. Was up there a ton.
What?
Did a stint wildland firefighting out west. With some dog mushing.
You're in trouble now.
Sam's new best friend.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I did a bunch of stuff, but mid-20s, was really drawn to just kind of settling down in the city.
So did you say smoke jumping too?
Well, wildland firefighting.
Okay,
so not
gotcha.
smoke jumping per se, but just on a 20-person hand crew. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
just like did some adventuring.
Yeah.
Go to camp as a kid?
Yeah. Minojan was the.
Okay.
Was my digs. Was a guide there
Knew
too.
it.
So
I knew
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get into that stuff if you didn't do that. I went to Camp Chippewa, which is over by Bemidji.
Yep. Yeah.
Private. Well, Minojan was a private camp too. It's Y now, right?
It was always been Y.
From day one?
I believe so.
I won't push you on that. I'm pretty sure it was private prior to the Y taking it over. So was Warren. So was Widgiewaga. These.
Oh, okay. I'd have to look it up.
Yep. But they've been run essentially as the private camps they once were through the Y system anyway.
Sure.
That was part of the covenant. But anyway, Minojan, yeah. So you went on some canoe trips with Minojan, and then you decided to be a wilderness canoe guide.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a smoke jumper or a firefighter, wildland firefighter.
You got to be in it for a little while before they put you on a plane and tell you to jump out.
I'm
so.
guessing.
Yeah.
Wasn't around it that long.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I've got fellow counselor friends from my past campers who were counselors as well, who have done the similar paths. And I guided canoe trips for years.
Yeah.
I took
And how
trips.
could you not, being that physical, how could you just do a desk job? You know what I mean?
Look at me now, though. I got to get back out into the wilderness.
I tried. Tried when I got back to the cities, and it was really like the youth work of, so like there's the wilderness guiding. It's really all about like wilderness immersion and getting youth out to experience that. And it was my experience there that kind of pushed me into teaching.
Yep.
It was kind of like a natural progression.
Yeah, for sure. Were you a counselor at Minojan too?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
How long did you do that?
I did it for 4 summers and 1 winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was told I did it for like 15 years because I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
But there's always, every camp's got a couple.
I think you're still that guy,
I know,
Sam.
I am still that guy. I am. I'll have to tell you some stories. But every camp's got a few of those guys who are like, oh, still back, Steve, huh? Like, yep. And I had a wife and children, and I still went back. But anyway, I would tell guys coming back on staff that, like as much fun as you had at camp, you will learn so much more and find the counseling side of this more rewarding than anything you could ever have realized as a kid. So did you find that to be the case? Did you get a lot out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I was really, and it just as a teenager, starting kind of through becoming a camper in the program.
Yeah.
There's just something about the wilderness immersion, the small group, the traveling through the wilderness together, where you just really like so much is stripped away, and you just sort of get to this pure life.
Totally.
Right. It's really beautiful. Really hard to name exactly what that is, but there was something that really kind of like woke me up and called to me and all that. So I really felt pulled to go back for my summers in college and go back and guide. And so I didn't really realize it at the time, but it sinks in pretty fast once you're out there and you've got, you're 19 and you've got 6 15-year-olds and you're 3 days away from a road. It's like, oh, this is
Pretty serious stuff.
this is more than just canoeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's amazing. You explained it a little bit better than Sam has, so I understand. I can see the pull now.
The number of times I've talked about it too. I haven't done that good of a job of
I guess,
explaining
I don't
it.
know.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're an
I
articulate man.
Maybe I just shut down.
Were you,
You and everyone else.
Quetico, like where were you getting to?
We never. I didn't paddle the Boundary Waters until well after camp. No, we were in Central Ontario, Manitoba, and then I've guided 3 times up to Hudson Bay.
Awesome. So you're like Albany, Blood Vein, that kind of stuff?
So Blood Vein, I did the Blood Vein, the Wabakimi area quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been through there.
Savant Lake, and then I did the Haze from the north end of
It's a good river.
Winnipeg. Have you taken that?
Oh, it's just got a good name.
Oh, it's a great river. The Hayes is a classic Voyageurs route. That's where a lot of the fur trade was up to York Factory. And then the Churchill River, and then the Wolverine into the Seal, which is way up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, they're all kind of way up. It depends on who you talk to.
To me, they're way up.
They're way up. I mean, like, it's... You drive to the end of the road, and then you fly somewhere, and then you paddle for 500 miles, and then someone, you get a float plane back, and so they're way up. It's
yeah. Well, I did go to Boundary Waters one time.
It's gorgeous.
One and done.
There's a lot of people. For me, the Boundary Waters, just like it, that was the least remote of the canoe trips that I've done.
It's a really natural starting point, especially for folks from our area,
Yeah,
but it is. I mean, it is for a wilderness area. It's downright crowded.
That's what I
felt. It really does have, like, once you've gotten into more remote wilderness, it really does start to feel, especially like when you're in those entry point lakes, it really starts to feel more like a park.
Yeah. I mean, I still thoroughly enjoy it. I've taken my kids out a bunch and some other people, and I've got 6 boats on a big 6-place trailer, so I still do it on occasion.
Well, we're really lucky to be in a metropolitan area like this, and
that's all right.
Depending
there.
on where you're going, you have a 4-hour drive away, and you can be launching your canoe into a pristine wilderness area.
Yeah,
it's pretty special.
That's true.
Well, that's cool. And so do you still do you manage to do work on these windows? Like, are you in the field at all, or are you running a company?
I mean, these days I'm running a company.
Yeah.
It's been a really interesting progression, having like started the company with the intention of just like, hey, I'm, driving around, put my name on the company because like I take pride in my work, and it just seems like a smart way to do it.
Oh, that's why you said Hayes.
Yeah, the Hayes window restoration.
God, I'm slow. Jeez Louise.
Sam, I thought you grabbed that one.
No.
You were just dreaming about
I was. I'm back on the Hayes.
So started the company, didn't intend to become an employer, didn't have a vision for what we were going to become. It was more just a matter of I felt pulled to do the work. And then it's like, okay, well, I took a job, about 10 months in, where I was like, oh, great, you're going to be in Florida in February for a week? Yeah, I can get that done. And then realized, luckily before the job started, like, oh no, I need help. I won't be done when I get back if I don't get help. So I brought in a helper. That helper became my first employee, right?
Yeah.
That was like getting into my second summer season doing this. And by the end of that summer, I had 3 employees, and we were like, I do things right. We're not cutting corners. So it's like they're all W-2 folks, like everything's on the up and up. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of grew from there. And so I was really lucky that I would hear from people like, oh yeah, hiring is really hard. So I'd look around.
That's what I was going to say.
Look around at my people, and I'd say like, well, no, it's not. And you don't really realize. I mean, I was really lucky with who I.
You must have been.
Who I was bringing
because it can
on.
be hard. Yes.
Because I have a team of just absolutely phenomenal people.
Yeah, you do.
Super fortunate to have that. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are today if I hadn't gotten really lucky and had people who are really keyed in with what we're doing.
Yeah,
and so
it seems like
we were a team of like 4 or 5 people. My wife had kicked us out of the garage. After a year or two, it's like, no,
that's what wives are for.
Yeah, mine did
so
the same.
We had this little garden, like a garden level 600 square foot shop up off Lake Street. So we operated out of there for a little while. And while we were there, it's like, we'd be restoring windows. It'd be like, oh gosh, we're a good sized team. We're getting through this faster than I was working alone in my garage.
Oh, yeah.
Faster than that. And so I was like, you guys, I got to peel out and go do some estimates because I don't know what we're going to do next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'd get back, and it turns out, well, Lyda, you know more about what we need to do next than I do. I've been gone. And so she kind of really naturally rose into being our shop and production manager. I love it. Right? So
that's the way a business should work.
That's right. Yeah. So that was really great to have good people come in who could really take charge for me to get more things set up and really allow for some natural growth. And the pandemic was really another kind of turning point where it's like, my wife was in a position that really required her to be like full on hard during the pandemic. And with 2 young kids out of school, like I ended up with the flexibility to be home. So it's like my team would be there getting work done in our shop, doing distance stuff, doing some occasional stuff in people's homes when it worked. I'd be home with the kids during the day. I did a lot amazingly with setting up estimates, setting up work over the phone, did a lot of exterior assessments, get stuff work. And then I'd go in at the time, the main woodworker on our team, I'd go in the evening. I'd have an early dinner, and I'd go in from 6 to 10 every night, and work on the windows, on the stuff I needed to touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like there's kind of been this progression of as we've become a more robust team of my role really changing over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
the way
good
it's
and
supposed to
bad.
be.
I mean, I loved it. There was a point that I'm like, I can't stay in the field. Similar to what you just said. I can't. I got to keep everybody busy, and I've got to make a decision here. Am I just going to stay this size or a little smaller, or should I be growing? And there was a need and a niche, and the word of mouth just spread. So I knew that I had to grow the business, and that's exactly what happened. And I miss it horribly. Sometimes, like I just said.
That's why I asked.
I know I miss
because
that,
it's like the
field.
canoe tripping thing or something like I don't know. You train the kids up to do it after you. Like there's a progression, right? So you're supposed to take these kids, train them to do it. So, but then when they're doing it and you're administrating the business, you're like, well, I want to get back out there and do it.
I know.
Do you feel that way about window restoration ever?
There are certain parts of what we do that I really enjoyed, and there were certain parts that I found just really tedious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I really love the mechanical work. I love the rope and pulley systems. I love re-roping windows. Love getting them working well.
Yeah.
Love getting in and just getting really good and efficient on the job site, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to some of the stripping, some of the putty work,
there's other people.
it was really easy for me to find something else to do.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So it's there are a lot of different types of things that we do over the course of a repair or restoration project. So there are parts of it that I miss having my hands kind of dirty, and more other parts where I was I never really liked it in the first place.
Sure.
It's part of the process.
It was just part of what I had to do.
Yeah, but then what I really miss about that time in the company's history is just the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
True. And then also being more involved and being more in the know about every specific project, which just isn't possible anymore.
No, not with the.
No, and that is hard of losing that and that detail. But maybe for me it's controlling, so I can let go of control. I don't know, but I'm involved in as much as I can be with, but at a distance now. Yeah. So you have kids. What hobbies? Do you go camping yet? Do you go?
Oh, we go camping so much. Yeah. So we're really excited. We have a Boundary Waters trip planned with the 3 kids.
Okay.
This summer. The first time we took them into the Boundary Waters, there was we had 2 kids at the time, but we had a 5-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And my wife and I, we went in with our 2 girls, in one canoe.
Yep.
And we did 4 nights and 5 days. And on the morning that we got up to pack up, they're both like, "Oh, we got to go already? Can we stay longer?" It was just a totally beautiful trip.
Wow.
Lucked out on the campsite, had this beautiful swimming entry.
Where were you? Roughly.
Well, off of Sawmill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just easy spot to get it. We
I know. I love Sawmill.
We left our driveway at 5:30 in the morning, and we're had the canoe in the water by 10 a.m. and just paddled right.
That's a pretty area, and there's some beautiful campsites. I mean, there are beautiful campsites everywhere. But
yeah, so no, we love getting outside, love camping. It's really shifted a lot with kids. So it's my wife and I were more, before we met each other, and then before we had kids, we were more backcountry mentality, right? Mm-hmm. My wife had done more backpacking, I'd done more canoeing, but it was we really loved, we were never car campers.
Yeah.
Then once we had a kid, it's we want to get outside, we want to be around the campfire, but with a 1-year-old, we don't want to wait 5 years to do this.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? So we kind of got set up as kind of doing the car camping thing and did that for a while. Too. Yeah, and then it's so it's just shifted. And so we love to get out, and we'll do a day trip on Minnehaha Creek when the water's high, right? So we'll have some fun adventures there. We used to get out and do the Kettle River and the Snake River and stuff more often, but haven't lately. But yeah, no, we love to get out and do some
cool
state parks, state forests are a hidden gem. I probably shouldn't mention that here, but
no, anything you like that you don't want ruined, don't mention it.
Yes, exactly. So we love to get outside, and we feel really fortunate that our kids like it too.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And do you ever do you go to movies? Do you get a chance to read books, or do you do any of that kind of thing?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Bike ride.
Yeah. I mean, I used to play a lot more music. When I was in college, I got really into contra dancing and old time music. Moved to the Twin Cities, found out there's a great old time music community, in the Twin Cities.
There is.
Well, you guys probably know about Tapestry across the street.
Yep.
Up at really close to our new shop is the Eagles Club.
Yep.
They've got a Monday night square dance every first and third Monday, a phenomenal dance. Eagles Club is great.
Two-stepping on Sunday nights.
That's right, yeah. And so, there's a really, so like
Thursday
Appalachian old-time
nights.
fiddle tunes, that kind of stuff. So
Oh,
I got
cool.
really into
Dancing.
that. Yep, so I danced in a group called the Wild Goose Chase Cloggers,
Yeah,
nonprofit
I've heard
dance
of them.
company.
Yeah.
So I performed with them for a while.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Fiddle, banjo, guitar, play some of that.
Okay.
My wife, she's got a beautiful voice.
Now we're
plays guitar
speaking
nice,
my
so
language.
we love to play music around the house.
Yeah.
Our two older kids are in music lessons and everything too. So.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I'm totally into music and then dancing. I don't have time to sign up or go to. Sunday night's a hard night to go two-stepping or to do something, but play a lot of music and.
I'm into listening to it.
And listening
I'm
to
a
it.
fan of music. I'm just not a like. I just
Well,
love
every
it.
Saturday morning at our house, it's always a big deal. It's Bluegrass Saturday morning.
All right. There
Because
you go.
if you listen to
I can see that.
88.5, I'll give them a little jingle as the
yeah.
jazz station.
Yeah, Danny Sigelman.
Yeah,
he's
and,
a DJ on there.
Yeah, he's on there too. Yeah, so that's the kind of the joke. I go, guess what day it is? Bluegrass Saturday morning.
I love it.
So that's great. I love that. Dancing and playing. Did you
So
say
you're a
band?
well-rounded guy.
Yeah.
Well, likes windows.
Up until I started teaching and then had kids. So you lose some of that.
You're
stuff
upper
over the
Midwestern.
years,
You can't say nice things about yourself. I get that. So it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear. But it sounds like you're a decent dude, doing good things,
And well-rounded.
And well-rounded, and you have a really sort of a thriving business here in town that does something really unique.
That's right. Yeah, and it's been really fun to get to know Lori too, because we,
She's
as she
the
mentioned
best.
earlier, we just got this new shop. We got a new space. We've actually really outgrown our space. So
Yeah.
super lucky to have this new space and really fun to get to bring Wonder Woman construction
Love
in.
supporting local businesses too. Like
To help
this
us
is
with that
it was
build-out.
it's just such, I'm so excited about having cross.
Oh, of
for you,
course.
you reached out to us, I think, right?
Oh,
so you
really?
reached out. So I'm.
You found us and then reached out to. Oh no.
Wonder Woman.
Business. Oh yeah, never mind. I'm like, yes, we're so popular. You ever think about sending a giant hook down to the bottom of Superior and pulling up some of those old logs to make new window sashes out of?
It sounds like a lot of overhead.
Yeah. I know they charge a
Send
pretty.
some divers. That's
they
cheap.
said,
It's got to be. How expensive is divers?
they charge a pretty penny for those old growth logs they pull out of there. But I'm just saying, those windows hold up. I like it.
Yeah.
Any chance you'd ever, on a new build, create all new windows for a new build?
I mean, we got to look into that. So we're making storm windows.
kind of-
We're making wood
Yeah.
storm windows, and we have a really excited about a wood product that we use for those called a Koya. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys familiar with a Koya
I
wood?
am. Yeah.
So we make a wood storm window or combination storm windows or traditional it's a 50-year rot warranty.
Yeah.
And so it's a modified wood. It's not green treated.
Yeah.
So really special wood that we use there. You get into replacing a primary window, and you get into all this different code around insulated glass,
Government regulation.
all these things, and so
True.
it's the kind of thing where it's
Yeah, true.
depending on where you are in the U.S. in the city you're living in, what the weather's like, you may have an easier time putting in a historic replica, single pane, for lack of a better word, window, if you're just talking about the primary window.
Yeah.
I know of a lot more people, like people in Texas, people in Florida, who do it pretty often. The times that we've looked into it and have reached out about the permit, they're like, inspectors aren't super interested in passing it because, what we're doing, we're restoring what's already there.
Yeah.
And while if we can replicate a rail, we can replicate a style.
Yeah.
Well, if we can replicate all those pieces, of course we can make a whole new sash.
Right.
Right. However, as soon as you're getting into what's considered a replacement project, they want to see those stamps of like, well, what's the testing? Like,
Of course.
what standard
Of
is it
course.
made to?
Yeah.
And as a small shop, we just haven't gotten into that.
Totally
that,
makes sense. Yep.
that kind of work. But
Because they do want
that doesn't mean that isn't a
testing.
direction that we could go.
It seems to me like there could be we're doing all sorts of weird stuff in the world, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me like there could be some sort of market for going back to the simplicity and longevity of what those windows really were. Mm-hmm. Everything's gotten to be so complicated and coated in Kynar this and aluminum wrapped in that, and they don't seem to hold up. And except Marvin's sponsors us. I'm just kidding. They don't sponsor us yet anyway. But if it seems like there could be some fun to be had there, I guess. But yeah, you'd have
there
to get.
There totally is, and I think that could be coming
testing.
down the line for us.
Yeah, I'm going to guess there's room for it. I think that code wise and passing all that stuff, you
You'd have
need
to get
somebody
the testing and
testing.
Yeah.
It's a tough road, and if have a bigger company and you can just have somebody doing that and finding out what you need to do and having the testing. But man, right now, unfortunately, what I'm just visualizing as you're talking, I think it's a great idea. A pile of windows sashes that if somebody's dumped on this, and they're changing stuff out and going in, like I collect radiators,
Right.
Somebody's like, you got a radiator. I got to get rid of this radiator. Where can I throw it? And I'm like, I'll take it.
Yep.
Yeah, for us to get into something like that, it'd really be a matter of what's the R&D that we need to put together the window fenestration numbers.
Right.
Yeah. The testing numbers to support this as hey, this is something that holds up to modern standards. Right. Of course, the big manufacturers have the budgets to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we don't see is okay, well, that tests well in a lab, brand new. What happens when an uncertified installer installs it in an opening that's out a square and 5 years passes? How well is that performing? There's no test for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't think...
You almost need the big company to do it first so that they set the precedent and do all that work, the legwork and legal work, and then you can jump into it.
Who knows? Maybe you've got an ambitious kid on staff who would be like, I'll try it, boss.
Get a couple of those. Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, we better wrap it up, I think.
Yeah.
Here. You got kids to go home to.
People to see, places to
kids
go.
to go pick up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is really fun to get the invitation and really fun to get to sit down and talk shop with you guys.
Yeah,
so
it's great to get to know what you do better. And of course, who doesn't like talking shop construction? But thanks, Joe. Thanks for taking time out. I know you're really busy right now moving and all that.
Hey,
my pleasure.
Now I see it. I don't know what was wrong with me.
You're usually pretty quick.
Am I? Who knows?
You are.
All right. Well,
so thanks, Joe.
So much, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to another amazing episode of the most important show out there. Before we go, we want to thank you again for supporting us and for all the lovely things you say about us on social media. Shows like this grow with help from people like you. And remember, keep sending us your questions. We really appreciate the stories and the great insights we gain from our audience. We also want to remind you that you can buy shirts, hats, and more at JoContractorShow.com. Be good to each other, and we'll catch you on the next show.